Welcome back to Wake Up America. The fighting yet to let up in Ukraine. Russia using a new hypersonic missile for the first time in this offensive. Civilians are fleeing the neighboring countries in record number. Newsmax correspondent Alex Salvi is live in Poland with the details. Good morning, Alex.
Allison, last hour I gave you the numbers. The United Nations saying 3.5 million people fleeing Ukraine, 2 million landing right here in Poland. Within Ukraine itself, 6.5 million people displaced, meaning that in places like Chryben, the border crossing that I'm at right now, they are expecting large numbers of refugees to come over. Now, over my shoulder, that's the crossing where people are going to come over. There has been a little bit of a lull over the past day, but they say that they do expect that number to pick up over the coming days. But I do want to pan this way also and kind of show you what it looks like going into the country. So you can see that there's cars lined up, waiting to go into the country, pick up people, bring them back, get in contact with loved ones. But as I pan this way, too, you can also see that there's a large backlog of trucks going into the country. Now, throughout the week, I've been asking truck drivers about why that is. They couldn't necessarily give me an answer. They did note that the war is moving more westward. In fact, from where I am right now, the westward-most attack took place just 30 miles. But I was talking to some of these truck drivers about what they're asking to be brought in. Most of it is the necessities, water, blankets, things like that. But I've also noticed that when they come back over the border, they're bringing with them families. And that they say the reason for that is because it's actually easier for them to get back into Ukraine as a humanitarian aid delivery driver rather than in a private car. And you have to remember that many people are waiting 4 to 16 hours to cross into this border. So that is something that I've noticed too. Once again, these truck drivers bringing in some essentials, most of it landing in Lviv, one of the western cities in Ukraine, but that's also becoming one of those places that is being more targeted by Russian airstrikes. So when it comes to not only military operations, but also humanitarian aid, that's becoming more dangerous for a lot of people as well. Allison?
Alex, have you run into any volunteers from America and have any stories that you can quickly share of why they're there or what they've seen?
Well, it's actually a really interesting point that you bring up because I just talked to some Americans who are right here. They're part of a child extraction group that are going to places like Lviv, like Kyiv. And I asked them if they wanted to come on camera. And they said, actually, we kind of want to keep our profile a little bit low because we do a lot of work in Mexico and South America as well. So they don't want to be on camera showing exactly their faces and what they're doing because they said a lot of the things that they're doing right here is something that they do quite frequently in places like Mexico and South America. So they said that at the end of the day, children are children, that there's no place for children being put in harm's way in a hostile environment. So that's why they came all the way across the world in order to do that, just that right here. Yeah, no, a great point. Alex Salvi, thank you so much. We appreciate it. All right, Carl?
Yeah, so that's, I mean, it's incredible to see the interaction of people and the outpouring of support, especially from, people coming all the way over from America and stuff like that. So millions, though, of Ukrainians are fleeing from their homes into Eastern Europe. And this is causing a mass destabilization. Food supplies, resources, and various other things that the government has to offer. But much like we've seen on our Texas border. So, here in America, that it's been happening.
Absolutely.
And largely gone unaddressed.
Right. And for more on this, let's welcome in former acting CBP Commissioner and Heritage Foundation visiting fellow Mark Morgan. Mark, welcome back to Wake Up America.
Yeah.
Good morning.
All right, so Mark, I got to ask you about this. This has been going on our southern border. We've seen Texas towns, local towns, municipalities completely destabilized, totally ridden, taken all the resources that have been consumed in order to provide aid to these people, okay? Like, I'm not demonizing someone for coming here to get a better life. I'm demonizing people who do it illegally. However, in Ukraine, they're fleeing war. Okay, they're like, hey, my house is gone, my building is gone, I have no place to go, I have young kids, I'm out of here. Poland graciously accepting them, obviously, because they're a bordering country right there, but they're not going to Belarus, okay? So Poland has had to kind of come up with a number of ways, not only to increase with traffic. I mean, some roads that aren't geared to taking in 2-3 million people at a time. They're dealing with strains on their power grid. They're dealing with strains on their resources, any type of municipal sources. What do you make of this, and what are the parallels of the impacts of this to what we've seen on our own southern border?
Well, Carl, I'll tell you, what you just described that's happened in Poland is very similar to what's happened, at least initially, on our own border towns, first of all. But you also made a very important distinction, is that Ukraine is experiencing atrocities that we haven't seen the magnitude since World War II at the hands of Russia. That's a big difference. What's happening on the southern border, the majority of people that are illegally in our country are doing just that. And actually, they're not claiming valid asylum. So those are two different driving factors, but the results are very similar for our countries. And if I can, look, I understand in this country right now, we have this moral imperative that we should and can do something to help the Ukrainian citizens with respect to the atrocities that are going through. We're all in. But look, we have to be meaningful and thoughtful, just like we should be doing at our own southern border, where this administration is not. And look, it shouldn't just rest on the hands of Poland. Look, this is why it should really be the entire European theater. And we talk about this, the most efficient, effective way to help these Ukrainian citizens, to get them off the border, to get them out of the shelters, is for the European theater, not just Poland, but I mean, Romania, Spain, Italy, Greece, France, Germany. It could go on and on. There's multiple countries that can step up and help.
Yeah, but you saw the same thing. I mean, look, when the Syrian refugee crisis happened, was it 5-6 million people that were dispersed? The same thing. They were out of resources. They were overwhelmed. You know, like, what in your mind prepares a country for this? But also, what can people do to help this process along? Seeing how we've basically lived it for the last year under Biden.
Yeah, look, I think the answer to your first question is, I don't think there's any country that can really handle the influx that, for example, Poland is experiencing right now. It's just impossible. But I've made the same case. This is the same for the United States. There's the strongest, most powerful country in the free world. My position is we also cannot effectively handle what's happening on our southern border that's been wide open and handed over to the cartels. And that's why it's so important that we hold this administration accountable. And we've always said it's first and foremost about border security. If we secure our borders, then we're going to see the atrocities that we're seeing on our own southwest border be reduced as well.
Yeah, Mark, we've heard some people say, this is similar. I mean, this is very different what's happening there compared to what's happening on our southern border. Is there, some people have said, is there a way we could implement a similar game plan that Eastern Europe countries are doing, for our own border crisis? But it's just so different, isn't it?
It is in the fact that, look, make no mistake, I'm not saying that obviously there's a government-sponsored armed invasion happen. But you can make an argument there's still an invasion happening in our southwest border. It's just a different type of invasion. Right. And just like I said, that look, countries in the European theater should be involved in this, because here's another element that we don't talk about. When we talk about the citizens themselves, again, the most efficient, effective way is to get them off the border and have other countries share in that. The ultimate goal should be is to return those citizens to their home country when it's safe. The same thing should be happening on our southwest border. If someone is fleeing and has a legitimate asylum claim, we should be having a policy in place to get them relief in the first safe third country they come to. We had that under President Trump. This administration got rid of those policies.
Yeah, you're right. We had a game plan then, but it has definitely changed. Mark Morgan, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
You bet. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.